Right, this is how I do a dead hedge against deer. In the bottom of the hedge you put all your dead wood. There's usually quite a lot of dead wood in a bit of derelict coppice like this. See a load of elder over there. So that goes in the bottom. And then you start at one end, make a big ugly pile. And so it's nice and thick in the bottom, so nothing can push through. Badger will, but badger will go anywhere, but they'll have to work at it. And then you lay your tops like that, having cut off all the usable bits. That leaves your thin stuff. So the whole of all the tops of all these trees, see the tops up there, and they end up being fairly straight because you cut them as you're going from bottom to top when you felled the stems, so they're in movable bits, and you basically fell so you get as close to your hedge as possible, if not landing on it once you started the basic build. You don't just lay it all higgledy-piggledy, every bit goes down like that, next bit on top with all the butts. The butt of the next one is just that side of the previous one. Then on the top you shove smaller bits in. See where it slightly changes direction? Still laying all that way. And basically as you're going, what you try and do is lay all the spriggy bits so they're outside of your cant. So that Bambi, when he's approaching up the field, good morning Robin. I've seen a pair of robins here all the time I've been working. Bambi's coming up the field. He has to jump this fence and that, and that's full height. So that's how I do a dead hedge. Right, so we started laying out the dead hedge for the boundary of this coppice. So we'll quickly go through that now. Dead wood on the bottom. Originally laid it out with just single pieces running up the slope. What we're planning to do is to lay it out so that the width of the cant is about twice the height of the trees. You can see that. So if we fell these, this is slightly narrower because the wood's a funny shape, but the tops will go onto there. And if we fell it all this way towards this corner, all the usable timber will go straight on the pile there, and we'll take all those stems down despite whichever way they lean. So we might have to take one and then one from there, basically to clear the root, as it were. It's tempting just to fell them with lean, but then you end up with a horrid mess. These ones here will get tangled up in there. Do you see? So this stall will go, it'll be coppiced and expected to regrow, and you can see the way everything's leaning this way. That's because of this big sweet chestnut here. That makes the stalls underneath its canopy lean this way, then everything else leans that way as well. So that's shading. But our line goes up here. This stall will be coppiced, that one will stay for next year. This one will be coppiced, and we've got plenty of tops, so the dead hedge will bump out a bit here, make it a little bit thicker to basically protect those. It's not ideal because the regrowth will have to grow up through and be windy, but much better than having the deer muller it and leave a cushion, basically. Now it runs up through here, that one will go, that one will fell, up through here, past this big, obviously ancient stall here. The size of some of these are basically getting towards the limit of what I can handle as I cut them into shorter lengths. But this one and that one may be part of the same tree. That one may be also part of the same tree, but we don't know, and there's no way to prove it unless we can do a full genetic analysis and prove that the genes in here and there are identical, which we haven't got the resources for. And here we turn right, follow this break-in slope. If I hold that level, and hopefully you can see that it's abrupt. This has the look of being artificial and predating modern ploughing, otherwise it would have gone. Things like that are signs that you're in an ancient woodland. That's the view that way. That'll be a cant in there, that'll be a cant here, possibly a really long thin one, but possibly two, because just up the slope here we get onto overstood rather than derelict coppice in amongst those cherries, which we did a video on a little while ago. And this one's all the way up to the corner to meet up last year's dead hedge. So that's in our camp this year, and where we're standing now is outside. So you were up here the other day. Some of these will go over there to beef up the dead hedge, which is at the top of last year's cant, because as you can see there, see the stalls are fairly low. Bambi got in and ate some of the stalls, and this is our cant for this year. And I'll go through as I'm working and stop every so often and show you progress, how we build the dead hedges. And for the time being, I have to take my word for it that they do work. But later on in the season, we'll come back and have a look at progress, see how they're working. And you can look down on the cant from here. All the stuff that I fell and use is extracted downhill. Extracting uphill by hand is not clever. We've got a slope down this way for year after next cant, and this cant will go down to a similar place. And I may well ask the farmer if I can cut a hole in the hedge, hole in the fence, to get stuff out easier rather than posting it through lines of barbed wire. So that's dead hedges, and we'll break it there. Right, this is last year's dead hedge, and it was too low and it was too thin. I caught a crab last year because I caught COVID, and I was a bit late anyway because of various things happening, and I lost all of April. So I ended up not being able to fell because I wanted to preserve ground flora. So I built this right at the last minute with stuff I could scrounge up. And it's too low and too thin. Places along it, and you can see with the eye of faith, if you're small, you might be able to get through. Or if you're big and bouncy, you could get over. So past the sweet chestnut, down through here. I've added some bits because I was here a couple of days ago, but you can see here there are gaps, and the gaps were more pronounced before I added all this lot. This is part of this holly. This holly last year didn't have berries on. It's a male, and there are plenty of holly in this wood, so he's going to come out basically to make life easier for recutting at year 7. Here's the hedge and the Dorset gate, and these came from there. If you take the bases off into usable lengths, then you can pull the tops back through and turn them as you pull, and they end up lying like these ones. Or I can slice them off and put them onto last year's dead hedge at the bottom, which is over there. See, that one there is low and gappy, but it's on an uphill slope. And you've also got the field fence, barbed wire, outside it, so it's unlikely that the deer were getting over there. But we'll beef it up If you can see against the sun. Got to knock these over as well. These are ones I didn't get around to last year because I ran out of time, because I ran out of health. My health score was very low because I got COVID. Blah blah blah, poor old geezer. And this year's dead hedge so far. There'll be a Dorset gate here. This is a Dorset gate. So it drops down like that, made out of tenax, which is plastic mesh. Lasts many years, unless badger gets at it. And you see badger has been through there and made an hole. That's part of his underfur. Badger wants to go through, badger will go through. Right, let's start and do some work. This is where my cord will be. Just here, with the wind blowing through, along the length of the stuff, and that will season by the end of this summer. It's fairly small diameter, and even though it's in long lengths, 5 foot, with the bark entire, and the bark basically conserves water until the life water is gone and the thing dies, and then it loses water faster. And hopefully this big ash will go today. Right, we've set up a post to put the dredging machine on, and we'll put it on time lapse, and we'll have a look at me filling this thing, hopefully without twatting my last good GoPro. Right, let's turn it on again in a couple of minutes. Okay, did you get the idea? Hopefully that came out. Poor GoPro's cold, and so's the battery cold, so it shows not much battery. But there's the start of your dead hedge. We'll just keep going that way, up the slope. Right, so the dead hedge is getting on. This is all potentially usable stuff, bean rods. This is all cut today. There's a little bit more gone on there, some bearers. This is the dead hedge. And you can see where it's all been laid, going down that way. And I started putting some smaller bits in a different angle, and they basically all tangle up in the almost horizontal bits, and the whole thing stands up, and that is well over 8 foot high, nice and thick at the bottom, nice and broad. That takes some jumping. There's a big stall that we saw earlier, he's under there now, and this one's mostly come down, just leaving this one. That one's come down, and that one over there. All this has come down today, so 2 and a bit tons. If you look at it commercially, that's not a lot. But I'm not doing this commercially, I'm doing this for nature conservation and the firewood. So you can see, even if you're younger and stronger than me, it'd be difficult to make a living out of this. Just as firewood, especially taking the time to do this. So, the dead hedge. You see what we're aiming at? Good, let's do a bit more. And the base of your dead hedge should look like that. So deer can't push through. Badgers will push through anything if they want to. Like little tanks. And here's what it looks like in the direction in which we're working. And that's what it looks like on the other side. When you've nearly finished, the other thing you can do is put big long lumps of brash so they lie this way. So that if you're a deer trying to jump in, the brash looks towards you, a bit like this bit here, makes life more difficult. I'm not being cruel to the deer because they've got all this part of the wood all the way up through. There's a huge area right on the top of the hill they got full access to. Another wood over there. There's more woods around in the area. So that's it. Dead hedge. Okay. This is the last Saturday in January 2024. And I've been up here, about 4.5 days. About 2 hours proper work each. I've done some filming as well, not counting that. And 4 tanks of fuel for the saw. And this is what I've done so far. You remember what it looked like when I started? So several large stalls are down, and all this timber, which is a fair old amount. And there's all that over there, which is about 4 hours work. So not moved. And I spent another 2 hours up here the other day. I didn't do any work with the saw. Didn't build any dead hedges because the dead hedge was done up to about here. And all this has been done since. This will get moved. And I've cut all this. And we're just about to get to our top line of dead hedge. We'll finish the dead hedge and then we'll come along and finish this in here. So if there's a problem arises, then the dead hedge will be done, and whatever I don't cut after the problem can stay till next year, safe from the depredations of the dreaded Bambis. Just done those ones up there. The last 2 got caught in this one that's lying here, so I had to cut that as well to let them drop. And you can see how close they all are to the hedge. So not a lot of moving to do with the tops. So yeah, that's where we are at the moment. It's actually a nice sunny day today, which is quite good. So I was just about to start to section those up when we saw round of fuel. So that's 1 tank today. I'm counting the tanks of fuel that I use, and I'll tot them up at the end of the work, and then we can work out what it's actually cost me in monetary terms. Next one's to fellow these ones. This one's a bit of a nightmare, but it'll come out alright because it's fairly small. So that's what we've done so far. Look at the hedge from the other side. As we go back to the saw to fill it up. And I've scattered a few tops on this side to make it more of a jump for Bambi. And if you look, you can see that all the tops tend to stick out this way as well. So it's much harder for Bambi to get in. If he does get in, it's slightly easier for him to get out. But scattering the bits on the other side, stop him getting a run up. Right, that's it for today on the filming front. I'll use up the fuel I've got left in here, which is not a lot, needs refilling, and then see where we go after that.